Welcome to A Better HR Business, the podcast that looks at how HR consultants and HR tech firms grow their businesses and how they help their employers to get the best out of their people. Remember, for show notes and downloads, go to www.getmorehrclients.com/podcast. That's getmorehrclients.com/podcast. Okay, let's get started.
Hello, welcome back to the show. Thanks very much for joining me. And I'm really looking forward to today's conversation with Minnikin. Michelle's a fascinating person. She's running a People Development Consultancy called Work Pirates with a co-founder, but also she's now a fabulously world-famous published author, and we're going to be diving into that as well. So firstly, Michelle, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you very much. Tracking me down on LinkedIn and inviting me along.
Yeah, isn't LinkedIn amazing? I think you did a post around your new book or a topic related to your book, which I thought, oh, this is really interesting. So that's how we connected. I think it's great.
Yep.
So for context, do you want to just quickly give us a snapshot of your background and then what led to the formation of Work Pirates?
So yes, I'm an organizational psychologist by trade, if that's a trade, who did what you're supposed to do, got a job. I kind of wanted to stay in the Northeast, so it had to be a bit random. So I did some work as a recruitment manager in development selection. And in 2016, I'd kind of had enough of being gainfully employed and thought it'd be fun to do things on my own. So I did what most psychologists do and leave and set up a very normal / boring psychology practice. I managed tickling along with that, but I kind of very quickly fell out of love with it because it just wasn't reflective of me. So I came across a book called Be More Pirate in the summer of 2018 and decided that I wanted to make friends with Sam Conniff, the author. So I did, because that's a normal thing to do. And it wasn't until the pandemic. So I brought my partner into the business. And it wasn't until this pandemic that we decided that I just fallen out of love with it. And it didn't have a voice. And it didn't really mean anything just to have a same Me Too psychology business. So I said, we need to rebrand. And within half an hour, we'd Work Pirates. No, Work Pirates will not be available. And then we looked on, GoDaddy, etc., and trademarks. I'm like, oh, wow, this is actually available. So I very quickly registered all of the, the domains and the trademarks and all of that stuff. And just trying to come at it in a different way, because we've always done what we've always done. And as psychologists, we know that the way the organizations are set up and run do not actually get the best out of people. It's literally bonkers. One HR consultant after the other will come in, sweep in, trying to fix these massive problems. And it's all about the people closest to the problems will have the solutions. So stop doing things to people. So we set that up in 2000 during the pandemic, like normal people would. And also at the same time, I figured out and got diagnosed with ADHD, which led to a year-long kind of rage fest, because what would my life have looked like if I'd known this information earlier? And this also explains why sometimes I can just see through all of the nonsense and just go, well, this is never going to work because of X, Y, and Z. And I always got called a disruptive person in the organizations because I would pick holes in things and, get into trouble. So it's interesting. As an employee, they didn't want me to do that. But as an external person coming into organizations, they love that. Go figure.
So I don't know enough about ADHD, and you hear the cliches of it just means multitasking or lots of things going on at the same time, perhaps, but you just described it as an ability to sort of cut through that noise and see the real outcome. Why or how?
It's interesting. So not all ADHD looks the same, but just that I really understand people. So that's, I've been studying psychology since I was a teenager. So understanding humans and motivation and why people do the things that they do. And it's some of these things that we do to people are overcomplicated.
Sure.
And we don't take people through change properly by involving them and getting them excited about it, rather than doing things to them and scaring them daylights out of them. So it's all about looking at the individual team and organizational level and how we can do things better for a more humane way of running organizations. Because we all know, if you look at the diversity stuff, the more diverse a board is, the more money an organization will make. But still, that information that we all know still doesn't drive the changes that we need to see in organizations. So yes, a lot of it's completely bonkers and really obvious, which is really painful from, watching from the outside sometimes, like, wow, this is like really obvious.
It's a bit like when I'm talking to HR businesses and they might put on their website that across the country there's X million or billion of pounds or dollars, whatever, being lost to absenteeism, or these macro view statistics and stuff. And I'm saying, cool, interesting, but that's not what a production manager or a finance manager or director of sales is thinking about when they're trying to do their next hire, or they're thinking, oh, so-and-so's just left. So the big picture things, they're just so obvious, but I think they don't always click. So Work Pirates is a people development consultancy. What do you actually do?
So it is mostly redesign selection processes to get the right people in, because if you don't get the right people in, and then most of the work currently is around assessing people for development. So I absolutely hate when organizations put people through like a sheep dip approach to let's train everybody on these same things, when in reality, nobody's going to be benefited by doing that sheep dip stuff.
Yeah, right.
And so it's looking and helping people become more self-aware. So these are the areas that I need to improve in. And my partner James is a Gallup certified strengths coach.
Love Gallup.
It's all very positive psychology based. So we know that, if you're good in this area, you'll have a downside. So understanding what that downside is and then being able to mitigate. What do we say is like automate, delegate, eliminate. But yes, it's becoming self-aware. So I sing a lot the Taylor Swift song, the anti-hero at them. It's like, you're the problem pet, but we can solve it.
Nice. I love it. Quick question. You're a psychologist. There are so many different types of assessments out there, and you mentioned Gallup, and then there's all these other types of things. Do they all apply? What's your thoughts on that for an HR person listening to that? They want to get some insight to their teams.
It's interesting. So the British Psychological Society has a psychological testing centre, so you can go in and have a look at how good tests are. So as a rule, do not use a type-based psychometric for selection. So if you get colour, a number, series of letters, and animal, it is not appropriate for a selection. And, the Myers-Briggs, or people trying to argue with me that that's appropriate for selection, it's like, it is not, because you can't compare candidates. And if you end up in organisations with a bunch of ENFPs in there, it will be really weird and nothing will get done. You need diversity. So the ones that are based on the sort of the 5-factor personality model, so your Hogans, your 16 PFs, your waves, those are appropriate for selection, but they are a tool. They're not the whole story. So it's really important not just to use the tool. I always say with the Spider-Man quote, with great power of psychometrics comes great responsibility, because they are subject to people impression managing, putting a good foot forward. So I always insist on doing interviews with the candidates that we put through psychometrics to validate. It's like, is this real? Is this not real? Give me some examples, and then write the report and then say, this is the candidate, because you've actually validated it, rather than just relying on a tool that somebody else could have actually filled in for them.
Yeah, right. Okay.
But I don't like at all ability tests. So I did use them a lot in my early career, but it has an adverse impact on neurodivergent people and people of colour. And so, no.
An ability test being what sort of thing?
The test of numerical, verbal.
Oh, gosh, I did a lot of them
thinking.
in my early career, administered them.
Yes. So, they do have people who think differently, or people who are raised differently, or it just impacts, unless you're pretty much a straight white man. Yeah, it has an impact. So I don't allow my clients to use them now.
Wow. Okay. Can I turn to your book? Because I just find it such a fascinating topic. Good Girl Deprogramming. There it is. So.
I've got one in my hand.
If you're listening to the audio version, yeah, there it is. Check the show notes for the links and all that sort of stuff. But this book that caught my attention, or this sort of topic that caught my attention on LinkedIn. So what's the book about?
So almost picking up the story from me being raging with the ADHD diagnosis, I went to counselling and coaching and figured out that what was Michelle and what was ADHD, but there was a whole lot of other stuff that was not either of those. So that's all the people pleasing, the perfectionism, feeling like you're an imposter, all of that stuff was not explained by my ADHD. And I was doing a coaching course at the same time, and the lady who was delivering that just said 3 words. She said, "Good girl conditioning." And it was almost as if there was a light bulb went up above my head. I was like, oh, could this be it? So I went to my coach and I was like, this is it. So I went off and did some research. So as a psychologist, I'm a professional nosy Parker, and I need to know why. So I was like, yes, okay, good girl conditioning, I buy that, but how? How does this happen? So I started in a really weird place. So as a child, I grew up in Northern Ireland during the Troubles. My dad's in the army. So I was always, why do bad people do bad things? And I was weird as a teenager, mad into sort of cults. I didn't want to be in a cult. I just understanding cults.
Studying it, yeah.
And so I started kind of there. It's like how we brainwashed into being good girls and living up to what society says we should be like. And I came across this chap called Albert Biderman, who was asked in the 1950s to understand why prisoners of war in the Korean prisoner of war camps were defecting en masse to China.
Oh, so I remember this.
The US military went mental and they were like, how is this happening? Do the Chinese have a magical brainwashing machine? And Albert and his team interviewed loads of people and came up with his chart of coercion. I saw this, I was like, oh, this is interesting. So it's used to describe domestic violence, and Amnesty International used it to describe torture. And I was like, I wonder if we could apply this to women under patriarchy, and print off this chart. And I scribbled over it in half an hour. I was like, So the book, which now sounds like not a bundle of laughs, it's all about how women and girls are kept behaving through the use of various coercive control techniques. It is actually quite funny and light in some areas.
I can imagine. With your style, it would be, yeah.
Yeah, it does have darkness and...
Right.
Yeah.
So is there a light at the end of this tunnel?
Well, the light is the end of the tunnel. It's like we understand what it is now and how it happens, and then now we can break it. So, funnily enough, as I put the manuscript into my publisher, I went to celebrate by going to watch the Barbie movie with my partner, James. And they were talking about the speech that magically deprograms the Barbies. And I was like, oh, wow, I've literally written the book. So I was like, oh, you need to give me my book back. So we need to put some Barbie in here. So we did. We sprinkled it with Barbie dust. But yes, it's interesting. So that's book number 1. And now I know this stuff. I'm going into organizations and working with women's networks, women's ERGs. Interestingly, it's not the HR that are bringing me in, which I find
who's bringing in? Oh, the groups. Oh, the ERGs are.
Yeah.
Sorry, ERG stands for
employee resource groups.
Resource groups, yeah, the focus.
So you have various flavors of them in organizations. It's part of DEI initiative. So so it's the women's groups and organizations are like, I like this. I'll bring her in. So we're doing quite a lot of that.
So there are 2 things. One is obviously someone listening to this should go and buy the book. If they're listening to that going, this sounds like it could be me, any advice or a tip, something to take away?
So one of the coercive control methods is all about keeping women tired. So all of the different ways that we're kept tired, whether it's by unreasonable workloads, having to do this second shift when you get home and doing the non-promotable tasks in the workplace, making sure that everybody's fine. That's all of that caring labor that women seem to take up, including running employee resource groups. It's normally an add-on to their jobs. So it's a voluntary role. So I've created a quiz to say, what parts of the book that you should read, because we're all busy. We're all tired. We don't have time to read 84,000 words because I'm clearly quite verbose in. So do the quiz. There's some tips at the end of that to find out which chapters you should read and which areas that you need to look out for.
Got it. Can you call out the website where they would find that quiz?
Yes, it's goodgirlquiz.co.uk.
Very good. Now, across Work Pirates, which has wonderful branding, some great tongue-in-cheek information, and the way you present is very different. And even just the website itself, where you go straight into the problems rather than, hello, we are ABC HR Corp. We do these following services. It's very much flipped around. So it's the other person's viewpoint and their needs and their challenges. But what marketing lessons, sales and marketing lessons have you learned, and perhaps even make mistakes?
So the biggest mistake that we made is we put all of our marketing into work pirates. At the core, nobody cares. Humans buy from humans. So we spent about 2 years after launching banging on about work pirates, and James and myself,
Yes.
and we didn't talk about us.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of, don't put all of your brand in the company basket, because I've got quite a few followers on my own LinkedIn, but not that many on the work pirates one.
Yeah,
so
that's a classic test, isn't it? On LinkedIn, you put the exact same post on the company page and the same post on your personal one and see what happens. Night and day.
that was the big thing. So we have a podcast as well. So that's an interesting way of talking to interesting people as well. So
You enjoying that? Do you find it useful?
Yeah, as you can tell, I do like talking
Ah.
and asking questions. So yes, podcasting is really interesting. And then being able to break up podcasts and have little snippets. So repurpose. And then my last marketing tip, I suppose, is document, don't create.
What do you mean?
So talk about what you're doing instead of creating a whole new thing from scratch. So the more that sort of ad hoc day in the life type stuff goes down much better than stuff that you've spent like 3 days making perfect, which is really annoying.
And what about the book? So when you produce a book, it's a whole new thing. It's a whole new world. What have you done to actually promote, get the word out about the book?
It's a whole new kettle of fish, isn't it? So it's a concept that you have to educate people on. So it's not something that's really obvious straight away. So we do work with an amazing marketing person, thank
Excellent.
the Lord, because that is key. As much as I could quite happily be a marketer as I grew up, I have to actually make money as well. So just not talking about what we're doing, actually doing the doing. So being able to outsource that has been amazing. So I pretty much run my LinkedIn account and they do the rest. So TikTok and Instagram, and we're not on Twitter and we're not on Facebook either because various reasons. And so they do that, which is, I think the key thing is focus just on one thing. Most of my people are on LinkedIn. Most of the people I sell to are on LinkedIn.
Why not Facebook?
It's a pay to play thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't agree with the ethos around the organization. I think the privacy, it's the brainwashing. It could have been a really good force for good, but it's the lowest common denominator, really.
Okay. So you've written a book. What happens next other than, I'm guessing, possibly more books, but what's the road beyond look like?
So yes, nobody makes money from, well, very few people make money from books. So I get about £3, depending on where it's sold.
There's your coffee sorted. Okay.
Yeah. The money is delivering workshops and programs and development programs off the back of it. And I'm currently working with a public speaking coach to look at how we can do more public speaking and then make money that way as well. So as I said once or twice, so many women don't speak out and don't say things because what would other people think, or it might jeopardize my career prospects, whereas I'm completely free to do what I want because I work for me. So
that's
it's
powerful.
very freeing working for yourself and being able to poke and say things that other people wouldn't get away with.
Is there a way of taking that online so it's not in-person delivery of workshops and things, or would just that not work?
Oh, we do it both. I've done workshops online, in real life, and
Brilliant.
the hybrid one, which was interesting because all the people were behind me online and everyone else was in front of me in the room. So yes.
Wow. Like 360, like a U2 show or something. This is cool.
Pretty much. It was so I do some work with a tech company and they've got all of the equipment to make sure it works. But yes, that was quite disconcerting. So I was like, do I look behind for people? They've got a camera at the front, but you can't see what they're writing.
And so that's the workshops and side of things. Are there any ways of spinning off product services from that book?
People keep asking me for merch. Merch. I'm like, Do you want me to create like sweary t-shirts that you can wear
And I
around?
got to say, so people who are listening to this as an audio version, they're going to go, well, what's the sweary bit? So work pirates, there's a slogan. What's the slogan? Like,
So the tagline is unfucking work.
now I have to go and put the asterisks, explicit on this episode,
I
by the
know,
way. But
sorry, I
thank you.
ruined it.
Yeah.
The kind of basics for the good girl is to become unfuckwithable. So
Nice.
I'm a big fan of that word.
In my work over the years on the independent consultant side of things, so more so the consulting world as opposed to launching tech businesses and things like that, independent consultants, I would estimate 40 to 50% of people would feel, I don't know if the word is suffer from imposter syndrome, self-sabotage, some of those things. And you've already described that connection with the Good Girl Deprogramming. So there's that. I think it's a huge number anyway.
It is fascinating because, so was it last year, Reshma Saujani? She is the founder of Mums First and Girls Who Code. She's American. And she did a commencement address at a college, can't remember which one it was, and talks about this thing called bicycle face and how when bicycles were first invented, women were told that they shouldn't ride bicycles because they have bicycle face. And that's like having a flushed cheeks and being a bit sweaty. Yeah. So to keep women from being able to travel distances and meet each other, and it's, to keep people behaving. Separated. And I strongly believe, like Reshma talked about, that imposter syndrome is a way of blaming women for being in organizations which were historically designed by men for men. And we've had to adapt to the workplace. Not the workplace has done very little adaptation to us. So as much as I really want to help the women, we can't do anything until we actually help the men.
Yeah. Can I ask, how would the workplace adapt as opposed to women adapting to the workplace? How do you change it from being male dominated or male centric?
I'm not along the lines of Sheryl Sandberg and her leaning in, because that's not the answer. I think it's a huge thing, and it starts at the individual level. So organizations need to be more flexible. Pandemic happened and women were able to work. Well, everybody had to work from home. And you found that women were thriving in that arena because they were able to multitask better all of their other conflicting priorities. And all of this, return to work mandate without any kind of consultation or involvement by people, just because organizations are paying for massive hospices that are empty and
they don't have the same control.
Yeah, it's control.
Because they can't patrol the floors. Yeah.
Yep. And, I can't be seen as powerful and wonderful if I can't look out of my office and see all the minions at work. It's that kind of like, this is not the 1800s. If we trust that our people are doing the right thing and are delivering what they need to do, then they will work harder for you than if you don't. And that's, I think, one of the big dilemmas in terms of HR. Who are we actually looking after? Are we looking after the organization or the people?
Yeah. Is there another book coming?
Yes. So it's Good Girl Deprogramming at Work.
Oh.
So it's all my active feminism and support that way, plus my actual career. So looking at women in the workplace. And I'm already collecting stories, and some of them are fairly harrowing, what women put up with in companies. So we are developing some more male allyship stuff as well. So I have had an interesting experience where men have come along to the Good Girl workshops and have been very respectful and listened to the stories of their colleagues and opened their eyes to how, that Madonna song, what it feels like to be a girl in the world. And it has been really enlightening. So we need a tipping point of men needing to lean over and connect as well. So we need the world to be equal and fair for everybody. And at the moment, it is not.
So what should people do, particularly men? What should men do? What's your advice? Is it to learn more, get involved more? Where do you start?
There's some really good resources. Tony Porter did a really interesting TED Talk, because men are conditioned to. I would argue that the conditioning men have is probably worse than what we have in other areas. So I grew up in the northeast of England, and it's very, football lad culture, and masculinity is not inherently toxic. Masculinity is beautiful and nurturing, but the worst insult that you can have for a man is that he's a girl or, heaven forbid, gay. We've got a problem. So it's looking at the Tony Porter stuff that he talks about, the man box. What does it feel like in the man box? So this is why we have such high rates of suicide for men, and mental illness and gambling and porn addiction and depression, because men have to be a certain way, and that should not be the case. So yeah, Tony Porter, he's got a really good website and a good TED Talk to start your journey into deprogramming your good boy.
Yeah, we'll put that into the website version of the show notes. I think we might embed that TED Talk because that's a great idea. So what does the future hold then for Work Pirates and for the Good Girl Deprogramming series?
I don't know. World domination. We'd love to get to a point where we're training people to be good girl deprogrammers and have an army of those around the world. So that is the aim, ultimately, to get more women and men to deprogram and see all of the different tactics and stop it at our generation. Stop us programming and training our sons and daughters to be, toxic masculinity and toxic femininity. We just need to that in the bud.
So someone listening to this, they're a consultant or an HR professional, they could potentially learn from you and almost get certified in the Good Girl Deprogramming methodology, let's say, and then could on-sell that as a service, could run workshops and things like that. Is that right?
Yep, that is the cunning plan. Book number 2 out first, and then that's where we'll be focusing our attention.
Fabulous. When I was an HR consultant, I went to government organizations and large companies and stuff and looked after ERGs and facilitated some of them and things like that. There's definitely scope for offering that. Would you like fries with that? Can I interest you in a Good Girl Deprogramming pilot group or a wider program, something like that, and perhaps even for your graduates or your early stage people to help them change the culture so that over time that the workplace changes, so all sorts of things. So 2 things, where do people learn more about Work Pirates and about the book?
So yes, Work Pirates is workpirates.com, and the book is on my website. Mostly it's michelleminnikin.com.
And the podcast, what's it called?
So the podcast is obviously called Unfucking Work, but I've been starting a Good Girl Deprogramming podcast in September.
Excellent.
My marketing person said I'm not allowed to do it until then. The audiobook comes out next month, so it's like one thing at a time. I'm only allowed one thing every month. So
good. Well, Michelle, you've been so busy, but you're making a difference and having a real impact on workplaces, but on people's lives as well. So I commend you for that, and thank you for sharing your story today.
Thanks, Ben, for having me on.
Thanks for joining us today on A Better HR Business, the podcast that explores the world of HR consulting and HR tech businesses. For show notes and downloads, go to www.getmorehrclients.com/podcast. That's getmorehrclients.com/podcast. Remember to subscribe and share the show with any friends who are busy growing a HR business. Thanks, and see you next time.